Naruto is a massive franchise with a massive following, more than 500 characters, 720 anime episodes, add on top of that the movies, OVAs, original game storylines, and you basically end up with a franchise with all sorts of opinions and takes. Considering that the series was running for a while and is subject to the occasional retcon, it only makes sense that we end up with some misconceptions surrounding the series. Those could range from simple misinterpretations that are easy to correct, to deeper misconceptions that revolve around bias towards a certain character or statements that get retconned later in the show. Now, I've been in the Naruto space for some time now, and I've seen so many of these misconceptions repeated time and time again, so I decided to tackle it once and for all. I'll be sure to thoroughly explain what I consider to be a misconception in the series from an unbiased standpoint. Of course, some of these will be easier to tackle and others will be a tad lengthier. Now, if retcons are your thing, make sure to check out my other retcon videos like the Akatsuki retcon and the perfect Jinchuriki retcon that a lot of you guys seem to have enjoyed. Links in the description. But anyways, we got a lot to cover, so let's just start. Now, the first one is gonna be easy to debunk. Minato defeated 1,000 stone shinobi. That's an easy fix. The village hidden in the stones deployed 1,000 of its troops to the hidden grass village, which borders the land of fire and the land of earth. And while Kakashi, Rin, and Obito were tasked with destroying the Kanabi Bridge, which was used as a supply line by the stone, Minato was to engage the enemy head-on. When he arrived, the Leaf Ninja had been dwindled to 4 ninja, while the stone had at least 50, and Minato was able to take care of the remaining stone shinobi. We don't really know how many troops each side started with in this specific battle, but this wasn't the only battle fought in the hidden grass, so Minato probably didn't defeat all of the 1,000 shinobi, not in this battle at least. He was credited with defeating them all by Inoki, so I'd assume that he took down the majority of them, but the exact number is unknown. Another one is the Ginkaku unit. I've seen a lot of people claim that it was made up of 20 S-ranked ninja, probably just to gas Tobirama up, and I've even seen comments go as far as saying, oh, it took 20 Akatsuki level ninja to take down Tobirama. Which, no. Tobirama himself described them as highly skilled. He never said that they're S-ranked. Highly skilled refers to specialized Jonin or Anbu level ninja. I also think it's dumb to compare the featless Ginkaku unit to the Akatsuki. We also don't really know Gin and Kin's affiliation with the Ginkaku unit. You'd assume that Ginkaku led it due to its name, but when revived, he says, snared by the second Hokage. So does he think Tobirama is still alive? I've heard that this is a mistranslation and that he just meant snared by the second jutsu, but I couldn't find the original Japanese manga online, so I can neither confirm nor deny this. The one thing that I can confirm is that the Ginkaku unit was not S-ranked or Akatsuki level, and saying so is just pure headcanon. Another one I see all the time. Base Naruto single-handedly took down Kakuzu. Now, due to this whole Pain versus Kakuzu meme argument, the Kakuzu downplay has been real. I obviously don't think he can beat Pain, but then again, a lot of characters can't. I've seen that fight used to make him look much weaker than he actually is. And due to how the Rasen Shuriken was carried by a base Naruto, and how it was a tad anticlimactic, this fight underrates Kakuzu. First off, this was a Kakuzu that had lost 2 of his hearts, one of which had the Earth affinity, and hence, he couldn't use the Diamond Morph, a defensive jutsu that makes him invulnerable to physical attacks, with the exception of lightning-based jutsu. Now, I can't say for certain whether the Diamond Morph could have protected Kakuzu from the Rasen Shuriken, but that was his main defense, and he couldn't use it. Also, you can't really say that Naruto soloed him when he needs Kakashi and Yamato to step in and rescue him from Kakuzu's counterattack. I hope I made my point clear enough. This one I see all the time, and it's usually reinforced by people that dislike Sasuke and don't really differentiate between the filler and the canon. Shikamaru was Naruto's best friend, or Shikamaru was always there for Naruto, not Hinata, not Iruka, but Shikamaru. Now there's no denying that Shikamaru eventually becomes a really close friend to Naruto, but this idea that he was with him from the start is just false. If we were to disregard the fillers, there's nothing to imply that Shikamaru was friends with Naruto prior to the events of the series. Matter of fact, Shikamaru found Naruto to be annoying and a dunce at first. He was one of the many peers that Naruto had to sway over, just like Kiba and Neji. And he only really started liking Naruto and accepting him as a friend during the Chunin exams. Plus, this notion that Shikamaru was Naruto's friend from the very start seems to contradict the story. Naruto was completely alone, and Iruka sensei was the first person to acknowledge him. Shikamaru finally understood how lonely Naruto was and decided to become his right-hand man during the war arc, when Naruto shared his chakra with the Shinobi Alliance, way after they were kids. Now, I don't think many people actually believe this, except for hardcore Sasuke dick riders. And the basis for this misconception mostly relies in Naruto feeling inferior to Sasuke, and a statement that Orochimaru makes when Naruto grows the three tails. You're not even in the same league as Sasuke. I'd be more inclined to take Orochimaru's words seriously if he didn't grossly underestimate Naruto's Jinchuriki powers. Even if he was comparing Three Tails Naruto to just base Sasuke, without the Sharingan or the curse mark, the version 2 multiplier is a much bigger amp, in terms of just pure energy at least. Orochimaru also thought that his Kusanagi blade could pierce the Four Tails, part of his underestimation of the V2 cloak. Naruto also considers himself to be weaker than Sasuke, but Naruto doesn't consider the Four Tails powers his own, especially considering the fact that he blacks out when he's in that mode. So yeah, based on what I've just explained, and on common sense as well, you can't really argue that Heavy Sasuke, even with the Sharingan and the curse mark, could ever overpower Four Tails Naruto. Maybe Sasuke could suppress the Nine Tails with the Sharingan, maybe he could fly away, but in terms of power output, he'd get wrecked. Now this one really gets on my nerves, and I consider it to be the ultimate form of wank. I only see this with hardcore Tobirama fans, that because Minato was able to touch Obito with Flying Raijin when Obito was 14, that Tobirama would be able to do the same against a much more experienced War Arc Obito. I'll just say this, you'd have to be beyond charitable to assume that Tobirama would be able to bypass Kamui with Flying Raijin alone. I know that Minato did it before, but A, Tobirama himself credits Minato's teleportation as better than his, and B, this was a much younger Obito. This Obito has 17 years of experience on top of the one that already fought Minato, and has already been tagged by the FTG. Tobirama is known for inventing it, so if Obito went up against him, he'd know what to expect. Minato himself even says that the Kamui surpasses both him's and Tobirama's Flying Raijin. With this overwhelming advantage, I see no way of Tobirama catching him with Flying Raijin. These people seem to grossly underestimate how hard it is to touch Obito with his phasing ability, and how a KCM Naruto working alongside Guy couldn't touch him once without Kakashi being there to counter Kamui. That's the only time he gets tagged, when Kakashi counters his intangibility with Obito's other eye. The only other time this Obito tagged without Kakashi's eye or outlasting the intangibility time limit is when he's slashed by Minato, which A, he was attempting to become the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, B, he was fighting off Black Zetsu's control, and C, he was already previously tagged by Minato. Other than that, no one was ever able to touch this man's. Tobirama managing to tag Jubito doesn't mean shit either, since he couldn't face through attacks with the Jubi inside him. Like, you'd have to be riding his dick pretty hard to think he'd be able to touch Obito.
Stop the cap.
Lol, get the fuck out of here. Now, I can actually understand why so many people have this false idea in mind. Based on the encounter they have, casual viewers would see this as a clear sign that Jiraiya could defeat both Itachi and Kisame, apparently. Though you'd have to be pretty dense to be a hardcore fan who's rewatched the series and still think that Jiraiya could solo this Akatsuki duo in particular. Even if you don't want to believe the fact that Kishimoto planned Itachi to be a good guy all along, paying attention to small details would make it clear that Itachi retreated because he was a double agent for the Leaf. Kisame himself believes that Itachi should have been able to handle Jiraiya and is confused as to why they would retreat. And Itachi has to play it off as a, oh well, we'd both kill each other. So even then, the lie was that both were roughly equal, rather than Jiraiya could solo the both of them. We know that Orochimaru was terrified of Itachi after being so easily dealt with when he tried to steal Itachi's body. Even when we jump to Shippuden, and Kakashi says that the duo didn't capture Naruto because they were scared of Jiraiya, Shio scoffs at this idea.
It could be they wanted to act before this, but for some reason they couldn't. Maybe because Master Jiraiya was around and they didn't want to face him.
That's not it.
Itachi is an individual that never goes all out, and considering that he was secretly working against the Akatsuki, it's only logical that he'd use the excuse of having to face a Sannin to retreat. Heck, I'd argue that even Kisame could defeat Jiraiya alone, and was either underestimating himself or just got that much stronger over the time skip. For example, Guy in his base inadvertently kicks Jiraiya hard enough to leave him bleeding, and then in Shippuden, this same Guy, with backup from his team, struggles against a 30% chakra clone of Kisame and is forced to open the 6th gate. So in no logical world can base Jiraiya solo both Itachi and Kisame. Okay, I promise I'll stop ripping on Jiraiya after this. This one, I don't see it as often now. When Pain said we wouldn't have won if he didn't know our secret, a lot of people misinterpreted that statement to imply that Jiraiya could have potentially defeated Pain in a head-on confrontation. Now, as much as I love Jiraiya, I won't stand for this dishonest wank. Pain says that they wouldn't have won if they didn't have their secret. The secret in question is that the paths are being remotely controlled by Nagato, and Pain would lose if the secret was exposed. Since Jiraiya was in Sage mode, he has the ability to track down the crippled Nagato, just like Naruto did. So if Jiraiya knew Pain's secret, he wouldn't have even bothered engaging the paths head-on. He'd escape into one of his frogs, and he'd use the animal path that he kidnapped to locate the outer path. That's what Pain meant. He never thought that Jiraiya could overpower the paths in a face-to-face confrontation. This idea goes against the narrative anyways. Jiraiya himself gets too overwhelmed at having to face only 3 paths, and resorts to having to use his hack's genjutsu. And once all the paths jump him, he was done. Now this is one I can actually understand a bit, but I think it gets exaggerated to an extent. Hashirama usually bested Madara in most of their confrontations, and was considered to be the only shinobi that could defeat him, which led a lot of people to think that he vastly outscales Madara and was beyond his league. But the truth is that Hashirama and Madara were a lot closer than people realize. I'd assume the reason that so many people share this opinion is because Madara had to summon the Nine Tails and combine his strength with it in order to compete with Hashirama. And while that is a fair point, I still don't think that makes Hashirama out of Madara's league. Hashirama's arsenal was well equipped to deal with Bijou due to the wood-style chakra absorption function, and once Madara surrounded the Kyuubi with his Susanoo, Hashirama had only one jutsu that could deal with it, that being the 1000-armed Buddha. And when they're down to their base, they keep fighting for hours, and Hashirama has to catch Madara off guard from the back and trick him with a wood clone, after Madara's Sharingan's been deactivated. Even then, you could say that Madara let himself get defeated, as his main goal wasn't to beat Hashirama, but to collect some of his DNA, and Madara programmed the Izanagi to activate. Even when they were both revived, and they fight each other to another stalemate, Madara once again has another trick up his sleeve, and is waiting for Black Zetsu to revive him. So all of these confrontations reinforced the idea that they were both in the same league, and Hashirama just had the edge. But he didn't completely outscale Madara. They were at a much closer level than people realize. Now this one is more of an opinion I see often that I just blatantly disagree with. I understand that the Pain arc is widely regarded as the best arc in Naruto, and that some fans were let down by the arcs that followed, more specifically the War arc. So I guess that people that say Naruto should have ended after the Pain arc are just too lazy to give a detailed critique about the following arcs. I mean, the story couldn't have ended right after the Pain arc. It would be an incomplete story, plain and simple. The arc itself ended by Nagato putting his faith into Naruto's path, and Naruto would have to go out into the world to see Pain's philosophy for himself. He would see the effects of the cycle of hatred, best at play when his former best friend Sasuke becomes a victim, and even then, that wouldn't be enough for him to find the answer that Nagato yearned for. Naruto would actually have to experience an entire war in order to understand what Nagato was talking about. Now, I personally liked the 5 Kage Summit quite a bit, and despite the flaws of the War arc, I think it's illogical to say Naruto should have ended after the Pain arc. To me, it just sounds like lazy criticism. I hope that my explanations for each one of these has been satisfactory. If there's something you don't agree with, make sure you leave that in the comments section. That's what it's there for. I wanted to tackle other misconceptions as well, such as Itachi's motives being retconned, or Sasuke's actions not making any sense, or the infamous Obito started the war because of Rin, but I figured that these topics could actually get a full-length video for themselves. And yeah, I hope I cleared up some of these misconceptions to y'all. If you guys are interested in retcon and lore videos, then may I suggest my Naruto lore and retcons playlist. It seems to be pretty popular with my viewers. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye!